I'm Dallas photographer Jason Olsford, and today we're going to get a little freaky with some frequency separation. I like to break dance. All right. Had to get that out of my system before we got started here. You know, I used to, I took breakdancing lessons way back in the 80s, had the parachute pants, all the good stuff, and I was pretty good if you couldn't tell, busting a move there. All right, so today I'm going to be talking about frequency separation and what I do for frequency separation regarding my composites. And, you know, I think everybody does it a little bit differently. But I also want to, before we get started here, I want to give a shout out to, you know, the people that I learned from, because, you know, frequency separation isn't something that I am, you know, just inclined to know or just understand and, you know, broke into Photoshop and just started doing it. You know, it took something, I had to learn it somewhere. And so I've watched many videos on YouTube on frequency separation. The one that I want to point out today, though, is really kind of how I've set mine up, at least the setup of it. And that is from F-Stop Lounge. And if you go to YouTube and you type in, you know, search frequency separation, their video will definitely come up. And specifically, the photographer who did the tutorial, his name is Jack Salsky, and he is from Australia. And his company is Faded Focus, so you can go to fadedfocus.com. Jack does some really cool stuff. I mean, he's a fashion photographer, but I love this image. I think it is fantastic in the tone and the you know, tone separation, the split toning, that type of thing. I think is brilliant. I love this image. So, and then another one that I totally dig here is has a lot of color. I tend to like images with a lot of color. I like this. I like all the contrasting blue and pink and that type of thing. So Jack is definitely brilliant. Go find, you know, check out his stuff at fadedfocus.com. Also go to fstoplounge.com. Check out their blog and what they've got going on over there. Good stuff. And then go check out their tutorial on YouTube as well. You can always learn from everybody that you watch and pick and choose what you like and what you can, you know, the workflow that works best for you. So let's break into some frequency separation the way I do it, especially for my composite photography. So this is our end product. This is where we're going to end up with the product that I gave Mark here at Sync Lab Media. He's a videographer there. He, you know, hangs out of helicopters, off of buildings, all the crazy stuff to get the shot. And so this is the final product that I delivered to him. Now this is, let's see here. This is our starting point. So this is where I started. And I went to their studio, shot this with their lights. They just have LED constant lights going on. So we just set those up, knocked it out real quick. And this is the image that I captured. And then went in there, and after I did all my shaping and some other things, that's what we got. But this is our original. So after I did the characterization of it, big head, changed body, all that kind of cool stuff, this is what I came up with. And this is where we're going to start for our frequency separation. All right. So the very first step, and this is when I do anything, really regardless of whether it's a headshot or a composite, this is where I start. I start with frequency separation, and I do that by taking 3 copies, and I'll go in and I'll name each copy. First one is color, and you can name these copies whatever you want. You can name it dog, cat, whatever. Texture. And then the last one here is original. I like doing original because what you're going to see here at the end is I'm going to use it. All right. I don't just have it there for fun and games. All right. So then we're going to title this. We're going to group it together and title this Freak, because we are a bunch of freaks that like to separate things. Freak sep. All right. So turn off your texture and original. We're going to go to color. And color, we're going to go to filter. Give it a Gaussian blur. Now, when we do a blur on this layer, we want to make sure that we maintain all our features. All right, so we have our eyes, our nose, and our mouth. And when we get up here too high, we start to see that blow out way too much. So I'll bring that down here. Let's see what. Let's go with around 9, 10, something like that. That's not looking too bad right there. So we'll go with that blur on that layer to make a copy. We're going to rename this copy Color Edit, and then we are going to add in a layer mask to that. Now turn on your texture layer. Now this is where it's going to get a little funky. You know, don't get bogged down in the technicalities of it. I don't understand them. I'm just going to tell you what the difference is. So when we go to image and apply image, based on what type of image you're working with, if it's a 16-bit image or an 8-bit image, this is going to change just a little bit. So for 8-bit, all right, if you're working with an 8-bit, what you're going to do is you're going to grab in your layer, you're going to choose your color layer. So the layer that we blurred out. All right, you're going to go to subtract with an 8-bit. Your scale is going to be 2, your offset 128, and uncheck preserve transparency and mask, and click OK. All right. If you're in a 16-bit, which is what I work with almost every time, again, your layer is going to be color, but instead of subtract, you're going to add. Your scale is going to be 2, your offset is going to be 0, and you're going to invert it. All right. So each way, you should have an end result of a image that looks like a high pass filter has been applied, and then you're going to click OK. So that's what we're working with. You're going to copy that, rename texture edit, and you're going to do what? Add a layer mask. That's right. And then option and click between those, and you will attach it. Then we're going to go back to our texture layer, and we're going to put a blend mode of linear light on that. All right. So this is where we're at now. So if we click our original layer versus our frequency separation, you should hardly notice any difference at all other than maybe in the edge. So that's our original layer. That's our frequently separated area, image here. So before I get started into this, what I like to do is add an additional layer in here, and I call this painting. This is something that I do. I haven't seen anybody do it, not to say that somebody else isn't doing it, but I like to put that under texture. Now, what frequency separation does is it takes your color layer and it separates it out from your texture layer. So you can go in and you can alter and manipulate the color of an image without affecting texture, and likewise you can affect the texture of an image without affecting the color. So this gives us a lot of flexibility, a lot of room to be able to make some changes. So let's start off with our color edit layer, and this is where we're going to grab our lasso tool, and I like to go somewhere between 15, 17, whatever gives me a good feather here. And then I like to blow this way up. Now we're going to really focus on Mark's face here. So grab that, and then you can push Q. You can look at the feathering. That's a nice feathering there with that. And now we're just going to go in here and I'm going to highlight different areas. And when I do, then we're going to go in and we're going to add another Gaussian blur. Now I typically, for me, and I'm not a fashion guy, so I don't know what fashion photographers do, or necessarily with portrait photography, I tend to do less of a blur in this case for character and the composite photography, because I like everything to be really, really flat. I tend to overdo it, and I tend to create a blur of about 12. And you'll see when we go in here to these other areas and we grab that and we Command F and add that blur in, you can really see it even out those tones. Very nice. And you don't have to be super specific with it. You can overlap things and that type of thing. So I've never done it over like a nostril. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, I don't like that. All right, so you can go in here and you have a lot of flexibility. You just make sure that you stay within, you don't want to do these wrinkles like that, because that'll flatten those out too much and that type of thing, but you really want to hit the nose, around the nose, and that type of thing. Okay, and if you mess up, that's cool, because you have your layer mask here. You can just grab your paint brush and then paint out whatever you don't like. So it's very simple if you mess that up. You can't mess it up, basically. So then we're going to go to our texture layer, and our texture layer is where it's going to get really really cool, because then we can start knocking out all these skin issues that Mark is having. Now, he's a golfer, so he's golfing outside in Texas sun. The Texas sun is brutal. It's harsh. And as you can see, a lot of people around here have skin damage, as Mark does. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our texture edit layer. We're going to grab our healing brush tool. Make sure you're on current layer, because if you're on current layer and below, some funky things happen. It's like we take a highlighter to it and we get that highlighter effect. But we don't want that. All right, so we're going to go current layer. On current layer, we take our healing brush tool here, and we can start going in and just dabbing out all these unsightly skin issues that Mark is having. He'll appreciate that. Now, typically what I do is when I'm working on on the texture layer like this, I like to get really close and really focus on those different problems there. So, and I'll grab samples from around it to make sure we have a believable texture. I have a super slow computer. I have a Mac. It's an iMac, but I got it back in, shoot, it had to have been 2006, so it's going on 9 years of work, and it's been my workhorse for a long time. And we're at 300% here, so we could even back this out a little bit and make sure that we maintain some. We don't want it to look like it's been retouched, basically. And so anyway, it's about 9 years old. It's been my workhorse for a long time. And I was talking to a buddy of mine yesterday who's in a networking group with me, because I do a lot of networking. And he's a Mac guy. That's his expertise. And I said, is there anything that I can do to get this dang computer, working better? And he's like, no, it's pretty much what it is. What you got is what it is. If you want something better, you're going to have to buy a new computer, which I kind of figured that's what he was going to say anyway. But, I don't really have a budget to go out and buy a brand new iMac at the moment. So we will deal with this, and we'll just let and for the most part I can't. But I'll tell you what, it frustrates the crap out of me when I'm doing something and then I have to wait, 5 minutes for it to work through or whatever it needs to do to make it happen. And this computer today is being a little finicky, so you'll know when I get a new one. Man, when I do this stuff, it'll just pop in. You'll be like, wow, that's awesome. So anyway, I think you get the idea there of frequency separation and how we're using it. Come on, you can do it. Frequently say my computer is like my cat. I tell it what to do, and sometimes it does it. A lot of times it takes a while to do it, and then sometimes it doesn't do it at all. Okay, so anyway, you can kind of see what's going on here with frequency separation, getting rid of it, and you can spend a lot of time on this, and typically I do. All right, so I'm just doing this down and dirty and quick so you can see it. Go up in here to the hairline there and get rid of that little piece. So that's where we're at there. Now I'm going to show you what I use this painting layer for. I think it's still thinking about that. Yeah. All right, so we're now on the painting layer. So this is what I use the painting layer for. We all have skin issues, or not even skin issues, but we also all have, bags under the eyes. We get this glare depending on the type of lights. This was a harsher light. We did have some, like a mild modifier of the light, but it still was pretty harsh. They're shooting video, so their lights are used for a lot different things than I use them for. And so I don't like these highlights or this glare on the skin. I don't like the bags under the eyes. So what I like to do is put this layer, painting layer, in between, and then grab a highlighted area here and then I'll go in and paint out. Make sure that your flow is at 1. Opacity can be anywhere between 80 to 100. I'll tend to go 100 so I can not have to spend so much time. If I don't need as much and I want to do it on a lighter, more soft basis, I'll tend to go at an 80 and then come in here, and it knocks those bags under the eyes out really nice. I like that. And then we'll come in here and grab a darker tone, and we can come in here and paint out those glares on the skin that we see. And the nice thing about doing it this way is because you're under the texture layer, you don't affect texture at all with this. And that is badass. I think that is just the coolest thing, that I can go in and change this stuff and not have to worry about texture and clone stamping. When you clone stamp things like that, you can definitely tell that it's been clone stamped. And so not necessarily the best way to do it. Now, also, just so you know, I shrank this image down a lot before starting this tutorial based on the fact that my computer is so freaking slow. I wanted to make sure that I could speed it up a little bit. And because of that, I think you see these pixelations that we see in the where we retouch. We're also at 300%. So if we knock that down to 100, you can still see it a little bit, but in the original, when I don't shrink the image down like I did, you don't see it at all. All right, so you can see on the nose here, we've knocked that down. It's a little too much though, so I'm going to put a layer mask on it, grab my brush tool, and then bring this up to flow to 100 and bring that down to maybe somewhere around 30, and then just go in and knock that out a little bit so that's more believable. All right, so that's frequency separation. That's how I use frequency separation. You can go in and really, make this thing special. The key though is that you don't want to overwork it. I see too many photographers overworking their skin, and you can tell that it's been, you can tell that it's been overworked, I guess. If it doesn't look real, you want to maintain texture. So a lot of times if you're clone stamping, or if you're using the spot heal brush, you can see, and it's quite obvious that you're working the skin, or you're, what's the word, retouching the skin and that type of thing. Doing frequency separation, you run less of a risk of that, but you can still overdo it. If you take out every blemish, and if you take out every pore and everything in the skin, then it begins to look like it's been retouched. Now, what I'll do on top of that is, if you have these wrinkles and you don't like, I like wrinkles. I like wrinkles because they're character, and especially in the composite stuff that I do, in illustrative type of stuff that I do, I like them because it helps me add expression to the face. But if you want to take out expression and you don't like that, you can simply go in here and grab your spot healing brush and start knocking out some of those wrinkles there, and then I'll take that and I'll knock that down, to whatever, just to bring some back in because I like that. So that's one way you can get rid of those wrinkles. I don't do that through frequency separation. I don't know if you can. I'm sure you could, but so this is our original, and then that's our frequency separation. So what I like to do with our original, because I like to blend the original with what I've done on frequency separation, is I'll take that and then knock that opacity down to, somewhere between 15, maybe, probably about 15, maybe 20 sometimes. You can see that there's a little bit of difference. It blends in these areas that I worked a little bit with the original, so I like it that way. So that's how I use the original on frequency separation. Then you can go up and you can grab your, wrinkle, your spot healing brush and fix the wrinkles, or whatever you want to do. That's for another tutorial. So anyway, that's how I do frequency separation. Go out, work some of your images. Don't give up. You can get frustrated with it rather quickly. Take your time with it and really work them. Don't overwork them though. Okay, so just get better. In the beginning, you will overwork. That's okay. But then you're going to start understanding it better. You're going to start learning it better, and then you'll start pulling that back a little bit better. The artistic part of photography, or as far part of Photoshop, I should say, is really the control of your medium. All right. So the more you can control it, the more you can pull back on it and not overdo it. That's where the artistic value of it comes in. All right, I'm getting a little loopy here. I guess it's time to stop this tutorial. All right, so go out, try this, create some awesome stuff. Put the links in here on the comments section below or on the website. I'd love to see what you do. If you come up with something different that you didn't see on here that works for you, also share that with us as well so we can learn from it, and I can also try it and see if I like it. Because that's how we all grow as photographers and Photoshop editors and that type of thing, and get better at what we do. All right, so go out, try it, create awesome images. I'd love to see what you do, and I'll see you next time on The Factory.